How some diasporas have used memory as a foundation for power. Jewish communities who have built institutions after trauma. Indian and Chinese diasporas building businesses networks across borders. Lebanese and Armenian communities turned displacement into global connection. And I am sure you also have been asking the same question. So, if you want to know, as the Afro-Global Diaspora, how do we move from memory to strategy, I invite you to stay till the end. Because by the end of this opinion column, you will understand how memory can become a tool for building network opportunities, institutions, businesses, media, culture, and influence. Welcome to Sankofa, a platform for Afro-Global culture, affair, connection, and opportunity magazine. Hi, I am Seth. And in this conversation, we ask what we can build together as Afro-Global Diaspora, because the Afro-Global world is not only a story of memory, it is also a story of movement, connection, leadership, and possibility. How do we move from memory to strategy? So, wherever you are listening from, I am glad you are here. Let's get into it. To understand this question, we have to understand the moment we are living in. Across the Afro-Global world, memory is everywhere, in our families, in our names, in our music, our food, our religions, our languages, and in our victories. It is lives in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, in North America, in Europe, and in every place where people of African descent have carried history with them. But memory alone is not enough. A people can remember and still remain fragmented. A community can know its past and still fail to build institutions. A diaspora can celebrate culture and still lack strong network and long-term strategy. That is the truth. We have memory, but we do not always have the structure to turn that memory into power. And this matter because the world is moving faster. New economies are forming. Technology is changing how people work, learn, connect, and build. Cities are competing for talent. Culture is becoming business. Influence is becoming infrastructure. And if the Afro-Global world does not organize its memory into strategy, others will continue to benefit from its cultures and its ideas without the community behind them. So, the stakes are light. This is not only about history, it is about the future. It is about whether memory becomes only something we protect or whether it becomes something we use. It is about whether the next generation inherits only stories of what happened or also systems that help them build what comes next. That is why this conversation is so important. The Afro-Global world does not need to forget its memory in order to move forward. It needs to organize it. It needs to study it, of course, translate it, connect it, and use it as guide for building stronger futures. To move from memory to strategy, the first step is to change how we see memory. Memory is not only emotion, it is not only pain, it is not only pride. Memory is information. It tells us what happened, who was affected, what was lost, what survived, what pattern repeated, and what lessons should not be ignored. When a people studies its memory deeply, it can begin to see the systems behind its history. And once you see the system, you can start building a strategy. Because memory without analysis keep people trapped in a reaction, but memory with analysis can create what direction. It helps us ask better questions. Why did certain community lose land, languages, wealth, and or political power? Why did others survive through education, trade, faith, family, culture, or networks? What institutions protected people? What weaknesses exposes them? What patterns are still repeating today? These are not only historical questions, they are strategic questions. This is where the Afro-Global world must go deeper. We cannot only remember slavery, resistance, and survival as spirit stories. We must ask what these experiences teach us about power, ownership, education, mobility, capital, media, and institution building. Because every memory contains a lesson, and every lesson can become a strategy if it is organized properly. For example, if history shows that people lost power because they had no control over land, then land becomes a strategic subject. If history shows that people lost wealth because they had no control over capital, then finance becomes a strategic subject. If history shows that people were misrespected because they had no control over media, then storytelling becomes a strategic subject. If history shows that people were divided by borders, language, and colonial system, then connection become a strategic subject. So the question is not only what happened to us. The better question is, what must we build so it does not keep happening again? That's the move from memory to strategy. And this is important because many communities around the world have understood one thing very clear. Memory becomes powerful when it is turned into institution. A memory can become a school. A memory can become a foundation. A memory can become a mission. A memory can become a scholarship fund. A memory can become a business network. A memory can become a media platform. A memory can become a political agenda. A memory can become a long-term economic plan. That is the difference between remembering and organizing. Remembering keeps the story alive. Organizing makes the story useful for the next generation. So, what can we understand about strategy? Strategy is not just a plan. Strategy is the ability to choose a direction, organize resources, build structures, and keep moving even when the moment changes. A strategic community does not only react to crisis, it prepares, connects, it studies, it invests, it builds and teaches its children not only what happened, but what to do next. And this is where the Afro-Global world has a major opportunity. It already has one of the richest memories on earth. It has stories of kingdoms, trade routes, spiritual systems, resistance movements, revolutions, music, languages, food, creativity, and reinventions. But the next step is to connect that memory to action, because memory should not only make us proud, instead, it should make us precise. It should help us identify where opportunity is missing. It should help us understand which institutions need to be built, which city need to be connected. It should help us organize which industries matter for the future. Memory should help us build strong bridge between Africa, Latin America, North America, the Caribbean, Europe, and the wider diaspora. That is why memory must become a map. A map shows where we have been, of course, but also it helps us decide where to go. And right now, the Afro-Global world needs better maps. Maps of talent, maps of capital, maps of entrepreneurs, maps of cultural institutions, maps of media platform, maps of cities where Afro-descendant communities are building new futures. Without maps, people remain scattered. With maps, people begin to see patterns. And once people see patterns, they can coordinate. And that is very important. We must understand this. This is the real shift. And allow me to make it clear. Memory gives us identity. Strategy gives us movements. One thing we all must agree on is that strategy requires trust. Strategy requires what? Trust. Because no people can build together if they do not know who to trust. This is one of the biggest challenge in many diaspora spaces, because people want connection, but they fear being misled. They want investment, but they fear losing money. They want collaboration, but they do not know who is serious. They want opportunity, but they do not know which doors are real. So, if memory is going to become strategy, therefore, trust must become infrastructure. That means we should build spaces where credibility matters. It means creating platforms where people can find each other. It means creating events that are not only symbolic but also useful to the community. It means creating media that does not only celebrate success but also explain how success was built. It means creating professional circle where introductions are intentional, not random, because networks do not grow only through emotion, rather they grow through what? Trust. And once trust exists, value can move, idea can move, talent and business can move, culture can move with ownership, opportunity can move with what direction. That's the kind of future memory should help us build together. The other things we must understand is that memory must also become economic. This does not mean selling history in cheap way. It means understanding that culture, heritage, language, design, food, music, travel, education, media, and identity all carried what? Value. The question is, who control that value? That's why strategy is necessary, because strategy asks who owns the platform. Strategy asks who owns the data, who owns the publishing house, who owns the future, who owns the media brand, who owns the distribution channels, and so on. Because influence without ownership is fragile. I say because influence without ownership is what? Fragile. Allow me to be honest. The Afro-Global world already influences the world. But the next question is whether it can organize that influence into institutions and long-term power. And this is where Sankofa's mission becomes clear. Sankofa is not only where to remember, but also where to learn, where to connect memory to opportunity. It is where to ask what history teaches us about culture, leadership, network, and better living. Sankofa is where the Afro-Global world sees itself not only as story of the past, but also as a system that can build the future we all deserve. Because the goal is not to escape memory. The goal is to use memory in its proper way. And that is the real move from memory to strategy. We must understand, and by doing so, we move from remembering pain to building protection. We move from remembering migration to building mobility, from remembering exclusion to building access, and that access must be built by us or among us. We must move from remembering silenced voices to build what? Media. This is not easy work, of course, I understand. And we must be aware of it. It will take time. It will require discipline. It will require leadership, educators, funders, investors, artists, policymakers, families, and media builders. It will require people who do not only ask what happened, but rather people who ask what do we build because of what happened. Because memory becomes strategy when it produces decisions. And the decision before the Afro-Global world is clear. Will memory remain mainly symbolic, or will it become a system for building the next century? What does this memory teach us? What must we build because of it? Who must be connected to make it real? Meditate about it. What must we do as Afro-Global Diaspora to change everything? So this week, do one simple thing. Take one piece of memory. It could be a cultural lesson, a historical event, a struggle, a migration story, or something your community has carried for years, and ask yourself, what does this teach me? What must be built because of it? Because the future will not be built by the memory alone. It will be built by people who know how to turn memory into what? Direction. That's the work we must do. And that is the conversation we are opening here at Sankofa. If this episode gave you a new way to think, share it with someone who cares about the Afro-Global future. Subscribe to Sankofa for more conversation on opportunities, culture, connection, and better living. And leave a comment we will review it. So before you leave this episode of opinion column, I want you to sit with 3 questions. What memory are you carrying? What strategy can you come from it? And who must be connected to make that strategy real? I will leave you with these questions. I am Seth Mayor. This is Sankofa opening column. Keep it in mind. The future belongs to those who can remember deeply, think clearly, and build with intention. Ciao.